is a painting. This is not a photograph. I'm not copying a photograph at all. I am making a painting. And my painting has to be, it has to live as a painting. I mean, it has to exist. Because at the end of the day, I don't know how many people is going to see her original photograph. Because this is going to be on the wall. I mean, this is going to be something that's going to be seen. And you got to pull out your digital file or something like that, or your iPhone or something like that. Or unless you have it in an album, then you got to pull out your album. But this is not an album. This is going to be on the wall. So it's going to grab when you enter into that space that this is on a wall for. I mean, this painting is going to take you. It's going to, hopefully, if I've done it right, the painting is going to grab some attention. And so what I'm doing is I'm adding individual eyebrow hairs, just like I did with the actual outfit that she has on. There is a hint that she has an outfit on like the one I painted. But of course, the outfit that I painted is in my head. It doesn't exist. I just made up something that looks similar. It just looks similar to the outfit that she has on. And like I say, please forgive my audio. I'll try to talk slowly to work around it. This is actually a Facebook issue. It's not really an issue of my equipment. It's not an issue of my bandwidth. It's a Facebook thing. And I believe they're just trying to get people on the, I believe they're trying to get people to use the, you know, if you have a business account, they want you to live stream to it. Okay, now once I have the darks in, what I'm going to do is go to like a brown color. I'm going to mix a little bit of Doxodon purple, a little bit of Mars black into burnt sienna, and a little bit of raw umber. And I'm going to try to create a very dark brown. And I'm going to go more, I'm not even going to go as much burnt sienna. I'm going to go more raw umber. I'm going to go more raw umber with this thing. But I do want some of that raw umber tone in the burnt sienna just to warm it up. And I do want some of these other tones in it because I want it almost black but not quite black. You know, and this is just, I do want the hairs to be separate. I don't want one to be black and I want another one to be slightly dark brown. And that's just going to make a more interesting eyebrow than if all of the colors were the same color. Now I'm basically putting enough medium, which is 50% Galkit, 50% Gamsol, to thin this down so that I can have a pretty somewhat liquid consistency to this. You know, getting a little bit of raw umber and burnt sienna to separate this from the black that's already in there. And that way you'll see the hairs as different hairs. You don't see them as just black lines. And I think now that I'm painting something on, I'm going to lean, it's still got a lot of raw umber in it to darken it up. It's still got some Doxodon purple to darken it. But I'm going to start leaning more towards burnt sienna. That's a little bit lighter red of a brown. Gives it just a little bit of difference, you know. Just a little bit of difference. Okay, and now on the other side of that, I'm going to clean my brush out. And I'm using my liner brush for this because I'm doing these as individual lines. I'm going to go to some ultramarine blue. Taking a little bit of that same tone into ultramarine blue. And now I'm going to do the same thing But over those black lines, I'm going to, and the ultramarine blue is so close to the same color as that tone that I mixed that also has a little smidge of ultramarine blue in it. But it does not make the color look black. It makes it look, it doesn't make it look flat, ugly black. In other words, it makes it look an interesting black. Okay, now I'm gonna step back from that, take a peek. There, yeah, I like that. I like that. And I like the, actually, you always like one eyebrow or something like that. It's one thing you paint a little bit more than the other thing. But it's a lot of things you experiment slightly one different way, so that when you go to, so you know what to do, because I can always change everything. Now I painted in oil, so I have time to wipe stuff up and start over. I mean, you can paint over something to start over if you're working, say, in acrylic or something like that. Okay, so now on this side, I like the lighter brown tones that I work with. So I'm gonna go back to that burnt sienna kind of tone. I'm just gonna take some of the tone to darken it up. Just use some of the tone that's already in my brush, because I don't want it exactly like burnt sienna. And I'm just gonna incorporate some of these lighter tones more so in the hairs on this side. And then I'm gonna back up off of that, take a look. Yeah, that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. I like that. Now, you can accidentally make your stuff too dark or too light, especially when it comes to eyebrows. At first, I had them toned the way I want, but then I add the texture. I lighten them up so I can add the texture. And then sometimes what you have to do is also, now what I usually do is take some of the tone that I mix in the eyebrow, and I'm going to take this nice little bright brush, and I'm just going to go right underneath there. And this is the same tone. I'm going to use this kind of like mascara, and just go right underneath her eyes, just to keep the tone harmonious with what I have. And just kind of bring some of this color. And also, what I'm doing also is softening the color right on the edge of the eyebrow as well. Now on the top, I don't necessarily need that softer, but I'm going to do a little bit of softening there as well. When I say softening the color, I mean basically making a nicer transition, I should say, from the line of the eyebrow to the tone of the skin. And what I don't want to do is get stuff from my finger. And this is why it's very important that you want to have dry paint. And you don't want to wait till the painting dry before you go in and start fooling with stuff around it, because if that stuff is wet, you're going to have to go back and paint you know, paint stuff that you might have messed up. So I'm gonna wait till later if I do have to paint something, because I might stick my finger back in it again. I mean, that is the nature of it sometimes. And then I'm just gonna bring some of that tone in the eyebrow, because the girls do this anyway when they add makeup. They you know, usually pick a makeup that matches their eyebrow and eyelashes and whatnot. So I'm just gonna pick some of that tone up. Just a little hint to tones here and there. At this level, the finishing touches is generally going to be hints. It's not going to be anything really, really obvious. You know, it's not going to be any real big changes. These are just subtleties. Now, I really shouldn't touch up here because this is newly wet. So I'm going to let that dry, then I'm going to finish touching there. So now I'm going to go to the other side and do the same thing. Work on my transitions. I'm going to go to the bottom of the eyelash first. And just soften some of that new line that I made with this bright brush. And then I'm going to pull some more of the hair tone into the skin, because the hair that's close to the end of the eyebrow is usually very, very, it's finer than the hair that's like in the main section of the eyebrow. And I don't want a whole lot. I don't need a lot of difference in transition on the top of the eyebrow. I just want some little softening, not a whole lot. Oops. And see, here I am, I just just messed up. I got some color, some eyebrow color into some skin tone above it. And when it's that close, it's hard to clean it up. So what I do is I take a dry brush and absorb some of it. Then what I do after I got some of it absorbed, I grab a little bit, I mix the color that I messed with too much. And basically I'm gonna use, and I needed to cover now because so I'm gonna use titanium white and not zinc white. And a little bit of cadmium yellow medium, a little bit of I like to use strong colors, so I'm using cadmium orange and a little cadmium red, and some burnt sienna. Burnt sienna. And I'm just gonna go back in there. And sometimes when you make a mistake, it might help you because it causes you to do something that you wouldn't ordinarily do. And sometimes it looks pretty good. Like right now, I'm adding this right here. Just above that dark, it's like contrasting colors. And it's a good idea. I mean, so now I'm going to just blend that back in. Boom. And there it is. Now I'm going to go almost, I got still some of that tone in my brush. But I'm going to just pick up almost straight white and add it to that tone. I'm just going to kind of go straight up in here like this with that. And now I'm going to go to a bigger brush, which is my number 12 bright brush. So number 12 sable Raphael brush. And I'm just going to hit it slightly. Just hit that ever so. And some of this is already started to set up and dry. So I'm painting wet into dry here with a blend, which is kind of difficult actually. Okay, so I got lucky with this one right here. I didn't mess it up too much. And what I usually do is sometimes I use a mop brush or a round brush, a big one. Just kind of wiggle it sometimes. Sometimes it don't even need to be brushed. It just needs to be wiggled over the tone just to get the blend right. But in this case, I haven't been liking what I'm getting out of my brush. I may have to buy another one. Maybe it's a little old. So anyway, so going back, I'm just going to add a little bit of highlight here. Okay. Just a little bit there. Allow me to get my okay, and then I am going to go to this little mop brush. I'm just going to kind of mop some of this clean, just a light touch here. All right, this time it did okay, so I'm going to forgive it for some stuff it did earlier. Oh, see, now it's doing it again. So now I've just unforgiven it. Let me try this Filbert Sable. This is a rosemary brush. And I like this because the Filbert has really long hairs on it. It allows you to get a really light touch. However, sometimes that light touch is not wanted and it's too light and it gets into other things. And sometimes I like to control. I love the control of these Raphaels. Because the Raphael allows me to put the paint exactly where I want the paint. And as a painter, I want to put the paint where I want it. I don't want just, okay, let me see what happened and guess if the thing will look right. It must look right. It must look exactly, when I say right, it must look exactly the way I thought it was when I grabbed that brush to use it. Whatever that thought I was going to get out of that brush, that's what I want to get. Or else, why in the world am I using that brush? You know? Okay, and these finishing touches are very, very finishing. You know, this is just little things that I'm able to see that the average person is probably not going to be looking at. I mean, I'm just going to add a little texture now to her hair. I'm just going into a little bit of the Oxidine Purple, a little bit of Mars Black, and a little bit of Ultramarine Blue. And I'm just dapping out a slight texture in his hair, just to reflect the light other than the way of painting left to right, just going. It just, if there's going to be texture in your brush patterns, put the texture the way you want it and let the texture complement what it is you're painting. In this case, her hair. So I'm basically going almost straight into the paint. And like I said, when I put paint on this heavy, when I have this much texture, you know, it's about a millimeter, a half a millimeter of texture here, you know, of relief from the surface of the painting. It takes a while to dry. Okay, but that's pretty good. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go in with my really tiny number 2 Filbert Raphael brush, and I'm going to go back into this eyebrow again, pick up some of that tone. Matter of fact, I'm not even going to do that. I'm just going to take some paint off my palette, and I just see some darker tone in there that I don't necessarily have. And this is on my reference that I might have accidentally painted out, because a lot of times I move my head away, I'm squinting, you know, because I'm looking for values. I'm not really looking for details. And sometimes I paint away my details because the value, I nail the value, but since I'm squinted, I don't see the details. So then sometimes I got to come right back and pop in details you know. And so, sometimes a little bit of a back and forward. But this is that's the purpose of the finishing touches. When you did one piece of work, okay, where's the next piece of work? I need to fix everything for the final, I need to fix everything for the final. I don't want to have just a nice value there. I want the value plus I want also that very wonderful final detail of paint. Again, that's the detail that everybody's going to see. They're not even going to see the detail. They're not even going to see the stuff underneath the paint because it's underneath another coat. And that's kind of like scaffolding painting. It kind of gets me to another place. It builds up the patina that I'm working on, or the impasto of the painting that I'm working on. But it doesn't really accomplish the full goal of what I'm doing. So, and what I'm doing is I'm just over-exaggerating a little bit more. Not really trying to over-exaggerate. What's the right word? I'm just increasing the contrast to make more dramatic tone, I should say. That's what I'm doing. So I'm looking for just a little bit more drama in certain areas of the face. Just a little bit more drama, not too much more drama. And in this case, I might have gone too far. The beautiful thing about it is you can always wipe stuff up. Now, I usually don't do this much different painting. I mean, because my painting is basically done. This is just touching. But in this case, I did this idea just hit me to just add a little bit more tone here. So I went in there and I did it, So that's kind of like the process that I'm in when I'm in this particular portion of the painting process. And like I said, the whole thing, I like to get my head in really close at this point. And I'm looking at the paint. I'm not necessarily looking at the image because I believe I got the image. I believe I got the image down. And so what I'm looking at now is not getting the image down. What I'm looking at now is how good is the paint quality. The paint quality is what I'm looking at now. But right now I'm starting to get into. I'm actually painting. I didn't really want to do that. What I wanted to do was what I'm gonna do is just soften this down some. Just soften that just a little bit more. And this is still painting now. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm still painting, but I'm finishing touches painting, which is different than just getting in there and trying to model this thing from the very, very beginning. Now I'm listening to this thing as I'm painting, and you know what Facebook has is they could, even the stuff that's quiet, it could at least just be like no in the background, so you at least can see listen to an image. Listen to me, look at me paint without having here. You know, is this sabotage, and what is this? And what I'm doing is just checking in with this little pieces of tone, just matching them, and just putting the finishing touches in. Of course, I am pulling my head away because I am looking at certain tones. I don't really want to do that. But I really want to do at this point is I want to look at the individual brush strokes. Sometimes if you get a little bit of the wrong tone down at this level, I don't even use a rag at this point. I just use my finger because I'm just getting up that top layer, and the other layer might be slightly wet, and I don't want to accidentally put up some tone I already put in. So sometimes it's better to clean up, you know, certain tones with your finger. Okay, and like I said, I'm just going around the painting at this level and just checking certain areas for color and for, you know, paint quality. Really, just making sure that the paint quality is good everywhere that I think the paint quality is good at. Because like I say, sometimes you're squinting and you don't want, and then sometimes you walk away from the painting at the end of the day, you didn't expect it after you finish painting, and then it's set up, you know, and you got a texture inside of your paint, and you notice it the next day when you're fresh eyes, you just woke up, and you go, oh my gosh, why didn't I see that? Why didn't I see that when I was actually painting it, you know? And so, you know, I kind of got a little bit of a, you know, I have to set up a little bit of a discipline where I have to, at the end of my day, I just want to sit there and look at the painting for a little while, just to make sure everything is doing what I think it's doing and not what I thought it was doing. Okay, so that's good. Again, these just little, really small touches here and there, small touches. And a lot of these tones is different. You know, I usually like, at this point, I might like to work on all of the light tones because these are finishing tones at one time, and then in a different session, I may work on the darker tones, you know, and vice versa. Okay, let me back up off of this. Take a peek. Now what I can do sometimes is if you don't watch it, especially if you don't back up, you get close too long, you can mess up your tones because you see the tones better when you back up. You see tones better when you back up. Especially when you're looking for, when you as an artist is looking for the subtle tones. You know, you're looking for them. Now I'm using this rosemary brush, and I'm gonna go back to my Rubens because that just has too much drag in it. I mean, too much wispy floppiness. That's good for just a hit here and there off the top of a color. But when I'm really trying to put the tone exactly where I want it, I really like these Reuben Brights. I really do like these better. And I'm gonna go clean my, as you can see, I got a dark mark right there. So I'm going to refresh my medium because my medium is getting dirty and it's caused a problem. Because when I go to flush out my brushes, I don't want to put a ugly tone from another section I painted into that. So what I'm going to do is get rid of both the medium and the Gamsol that's dirty. Just wipe it up with a paper towel. And I'm going to put in some new medium and some new Gamsol. So I'm using 50%, my medium is 50% Galkit, 50% Gamsol. And then of course for my wash that I wash my brushes out, I have a third container that's just all Gamsol for basically for wiping my brushes out with. And it's very important to be able to wipe your brushes out because if you have a dirty brush, you've been working on this nice tone, getting it nice and perfect, and bam, you put a little dark spot right in the middle of your forehead. That's no good. Okay, so that's no good. Especially when you're working on just how smooth you want to get this. And you see how I did it? Now that I got new stuff, new medium, see this is how important your medium is. Then I have new medium, I can do a new blend. And before I add any new tone to this blend that I have, what I'm going to do is just smooth out what's on the canvas already. Just so I can see what's underneath because this is wet on wet right now. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, I kind of did a straight brush stroke on this side, so I'm going to get some cadmium orange, some burnt sienna, and some raw umber. Mix it in a little medium. And just kind of start over here in the area that I already have a dark tone and just kind of move in to this little area that I'm blending. Okay, and then just fix a little stray brush stroke that kind of got out of control there. Okay, and then I'm gonna back off and see how that repair went. Okay, and I have some stray brush strokes in here too. So I'm going to see if I can repair that as well. Just backing up so I can see the tones better. Now I think I might have too much medium on my brush, so I'm gonna wipe it off. And I still have some slightly darker, that darker brown in the brush. It's mixing with this lighter tone, and I don't really need to add anything because it's in the brush already. Okay, and that's all I can do with this flat brush. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clean my round brush that I'm using as a mop brush. And I'm just going to lightly hit it. Lightly hit this just to kind of conceal the brush marks a little bit. Okay. None of these brushes is giving me what I want. None of them. And it could be that my medium is a little bit, my paint is a little bit too soft. Which sometimes means just go back in with a little bit more thicker paint, a little bit more tone. And I think that's what I shall do. I'm going to go with my mop brush. I'm just going to add some straight pigment in there. And just find the section I want to start in. And it's kind of absorbing, the paint itself is absorbing some of the excess medium that I have while I'm trying to do this blend. And what it's causing is, actually it causes you to do a better glaze, a better tone. I'm just going to try to take this up. Now that I got that close, I'm going to go back to my Raphael where I can get a little bit more control. I think I'm going to get this tone a little closer to her tiara. Just a lighter tone, just a little bit closer. Okay, now, I think I got the tone, so now I'm going to go in close, get my head close. And I'm going to try to blend. I'm going to try to blend some brush marks away. There. And just the paint, it's just the right consistency. Sometimes you just got to add some more paint. Sometimes you do. Just to get everything to blend in nice and smooth. Because, you know, your paint, especially when you're working with browns, these colors can somewhat dry fairly quickly. I mean, within hours, literally. You know, it's funny that some colors would take weeks to dry on you. And other colors with oil would dry within literally minutes, hours, doing one painting session, completely dry. I mean, it's dry, or it's so dry that you can't work it anymore. So, which is the same thing for me. I can't work it, so I can always go in with a lighter or more color with more, you know, thinner color, or a color with more, that's loaded up with more medium, and I can paint over. You're going to get to some level, and that's what I've been doing. You see me with a color that's already, that one color on top of another color. But you just want to make these very subtle brush marks without disturbing the color that's underneath. You don't want to disturb the color that's underneath. And you have to be very careful of the colors that's already in your brush, too, at this level. Because what you really, really want to do, you're looking at those details in the paint quality itself. Okay, so now that I have that, what I'm going to do now is, there's always little details, always little things, especially in portraiture. There's always some little nuancey thing that slipped you the last time when you were looking, it got by you, then all of a sudden you think you got everything done there. You go, hold on, I can't go on I just saw something else that I didn't catch, you know. And of course, what you got to do is you want to catch it. But in this case, like these are so thin, by tomorrow or in a few hours, this bad boy will be dry anyway. It'll be dry, so you really just don't even, with these little glazes in the skin tone like this, I can just go back and forward, and just, they're just little thin glazes. And of course, the thinner the paint's on there, the faster it'll dry, literally. I mean, that's just how it works. And so that's what you want. You want a paint that's thin. You also want a paint that's, you know, well, you don't want it, but it's thin and it's going to dry fast. Let's put it that way. So then you can go in with another tone that's almost dry, that's kind of stiff. It's not going to go anywhere if you put a wetter tone on top of it. So you just go in, you add your wetter tone, and you're good to go. Okay. All right, so now what I'm going to do is go into what section I want to work on now. I'm going to go into some of these other little sections. Well, no, I'm not going to work on that. I'm going to go into the, I'm going to go into the crown. Now, in the crown area, I have it painted nicely. But again, I don't, at this point in the painting, I do not want wispy or wimpy paint on the canvas, because, you know, a person's going to look up at this and they're going to see that paint. They're going to say, okay, Steve Foreman painted that, you know, and, but that looks pretty. I mean, the average person, the lay person who's not an artist, they're going to look at it and say, oh, that looks great. But the person who is like artist or art pretender or whoever he wants to be a big artist, they're going to criticize. And of course, I don't like my work criticized. Well, it can be criticized. I shouldn't say that. I don't have that big of an ego. But I want to consider every possible thing before I release it, so that if it was to be criticized, it is something really, really minuscule. It's not something really big. It's not something like, oh man, you really missed it right there. Okay, now that I'm working on this, I don't want to use my pinky technique because I just painted that down the bottom. I usually paint left to right, top to bottom. But in this case, I worked on the eye, so that's below. I just saw something else, man. God damn, I'm always seeing stuff. Okay, I'm gonna leave that go. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is use my stick, because I don't want to get my hand on this painting at all. And what I'm doing is, I have to paint across my body because that's where I got I can see my palette better. You know, I got a place where I can reach it better. It's the one thing to reach it. According to the lights in your studio and all of the arrangements. And that's really according to what I'm trying to do. Because I rearrange my studio based on what I'm trying to do. Right now, I have a lot of space behind me, but, you know, I just moved stuff. So, because while I was waiting for this paint to dry, I was doing other things. So, I moved stuff. So, I didn't have a chance to get set up for this movement yet, you know. I just kind of did it, you know, and then went live, you know. So, you can see now, I'm putting this white paint on in this tiara, because this tiara is out of focus. So it's not a lot of details like in her eyes or in different parts of the painting. So when I have a portion of the painting that's really out of focus, I still like to put the painting on very, very masterfully, very, very nicely. You know, with consideration for the fact that I want this paint on very, very deliberate, you know. You know, this is what I want here. You know, a thick, rich, wonderful paint, you know. That's what I want. I want thick, rich, wonderful paint. So I'm going to go in here with my painting stick. And I'm going to keep my hands off of the paint. And I'm going to just put these colors down. And I'm using impasto on this painting. I'm not painting this painting to be flat, like photographic. I know a lot of people who paint like that, and that's fine. You know, if that's what you like and that's what you're used to. A lot of people that's used to working with watercolor or drawing, they're switching to painting, or if they're working just with acrylic, they haven't worked with a lot of oil, or they're young painters. They haven't been to museums to see a lot of other people's paints through the ages, you know, to see how other people paint. They paint like that, you know, they paint very flat. And like I said, it's a personal aesthetic. It's what you like. You know, as an artist, I tend to paint what I like, you know. And I do not, a painting is a piece of furniture in your home. I mean, I don't want to call it decorum, but it's something that is going to be looked at like your sofa or like your television or entertainment center. You know, when guests come over your house, they're going to be looking at your artwork. I mean, it's artwork that's made, it's a piece of furniture that's made to be actually looked at. So it's not a picture like a photograph, like, okay, this is my kid graduating from college or high school. This is me when I was graduating from high school. This is me getting married, you know. Those are the kind of things that most people have, you know, on their walls at their home. This is my little baby, this is my little child. And this is when he was 10, this is when he was 12, you know, that kind of thing. Okay, that's a photograph, and that's nice. And a lot of times people get them framed nicely. They put them in prominent places in their home, or they're scattered all over the walls, here and there. It depends on what stage you are in life or what you like. Some people like very simplistic walls in their home. Some people like their home to look like modern art look, you know. And then other people just like their room to look, you know, just some nice piece of art. It doesn't have to be modern or abstract. When I say modern art, I mean abstract art. Because this is modern art. And my painting, it has to make your home look like art in there. And when you use this if you ever go to a fine arts museum, and you look at the paintings, they almost stand off the wall. They almost have like a sculptural quality to them. You know? They have like a sculptural quality to them. And you see the paint actually with impasto kind of sticking up. The paint's kind of sticking there. And it's like, oh my gosh, that paint is put on like with a palette knife or something. It looks like they just, you know, it looks like it's put on with a putty knife or something, you know. That's a very interesting look, and it definitely makes it definitely separates. You know that painting was not purchased from Walmart or Target or some, you know, department store. You know that painting was purchased from either a gallery or a museum or something like that, which is a whole different level of shopping for art for the walls of your home. I mean, if you actually go to a gallery, if you're a wealthy person, and that's the kind of people that can afford the type of paintings I have, wealthy people. This young lady is a wealthy person, obviously. She's a wealthy person. So she's you know, she's in a culture that's used to purchasing art. That's why she commissioned me to do this. The average middle class American, I should say, is not necessarily, that's not part of that's not their norm, so they don't do art as a normal thing. You know, it's just like, oh, I just bought a new house and I got this color couch and I really want this particular I want a piece of art that goes and match with my decorum. That's what the average middle class person is thinking about. And of course, the average upper class person, they're thinking the same things, except for they have very immaculate taste. Most of them have very, very good taste. And they've seen a lot of things because they've been a lot of places. So they know what's up. You know, they know what's what when it comes down to art. They might have gone to Paris and they've seen the Louvre and they've seen the art of Europe. And they've seen how people pay attention to that and give it reverence. They go, oh my gosh. So then they kind of get into that culture. Just say they were not born into that culture. And then next thing you know, they start picking up a love for adding fine arts to their home or to their business or to, their place of employment. To bring up if you're going to be spending time, for example, at work. Say if you're going to be spending a lot of time at work, it looked like you would want to see some nice things around you. You know, you go to banks sometimes, they got the news playing. It's depressing because it's usually something you don't want to see. There's a flood somewhere or earthquake somewhere, somebody killing somebody somewhere. It's just some bad news, man. And wouldn't it be a lot better if you go to a bank and when you're waiting for the bank teller to deal with your business, you get to look around and see some beautiful art on the wall. I don't know why that doesn't become a part of American culture. It's a great way to support the arts. It's a great way to up your culture. And a lot of people don't think about upping their culture anymore. You up your culture. In addition to upping your culture, you're also expanding your knowledge of advanced culture in terms of fine arts. And a lot of times people think upping their culture is buying a car. You get a nice Lamborghini or Ferrari. Okay, the average middle class person ain't getting a Lamborghini or Ferrari. What they're getting is a Mercedes or BMW or, a Lexus or something. And they believe that that's a depreciating item. And as soon as you drive it off the lot, that item is going down in value. Now, a painting is going to speak, like this painting, for example, speaks of her. I mean, she's commissioned me to do a painting that speaks of her. This is about her. It's about who she is. And when you enter into this fantasy, you're entering into her mind space of where she wants you to be when you come into her space. And everybody has a different thing they want to convey, when you come into their space. Everybody has something slightly different. So as an artist, what you want to do is you want to come up with something that is going to tickle her fancy, It's going to make her feel good about her space. And what she asks you to do as an artist. And I apologize for Facebook jacking up my audio. But it's not my fault. It's Facebook. And I refuse to be corralled, So I came on anyway. You can still, if you don't mind forbearing a little bit, please. Just forbear through my video. I appreciate you for doing it. Okay, so basically I'm just adding the refinements, the finishing touches, you know, to this piece here. Making it stand out more. Making it appear to be more interesting, I guess, also. And just, you know, trying to put on some really nice paint. You know. Put on some really nice paint. Ooh, wow, that's on there nice. As soon as I said that, I just put it on there just so nice. Now I'm putting it on thick, but thick is also good. Impasto. It's going to look like a sculpture. And that's what's going to give it the final look. Like I said, when you go into her living room, it's not going to just, it's going to be textural as well as pictorial. It's going to be a pictorial rendering, yes. But it's going to almost be like an abstract piece also. See, because I can give you a little piece of abstract. I can give you abstract within my figurative. So I can paint figuratively or realistically. I'm not going to say this is photorealistic, but I can paint somewhat realistically, photorealistically, I guess, if you would. But you're going to get some paint. You're going to get a piece that look like it's going to have a Rembrandt-esque in terms of nice, thick, rich paint quality to it. Okay. I'm going to back up off of that and see how that texture is working in that crown. And I like it. It just gives the crown some presence. I don't want so much presence that is taken away from her face or eyes. But I do want enough. I want enough paint in it to look interesting. Okay, now that I have the paint, the texture looking nice, I think I'm going to do a lot of painting on this from a standing position, a few inches with my head as far away from the painting as I can, just to add glints of light where I think it needs to be. Just, I should say, tone. Okay, now I'm going to go into yellow. Even though I don't see yellow as intense in some places, again, I'm going to just add just some cadmium yellow light to some of these images, just to make it pop just that little bit more. Just to give it just a little bit more glow and shimmy. And I'm just grabbing the paint just straight almost. And I'm not necessarily like really gestural, but I'm gesturally painting these little glints of yellow, cadmium yellow light into this, and I got my head away so I can kind of see where I want that little yellow glint to glow at. Again, when the person views this from a distance, that color would kind of fuse in. It would kind of fuse in with other things and be quite a nice effect, I'm hoping. I'm going to go back to the white because I see some places where I want some more white. Just to work with a little bit more geometry of this tiara that she's wearing. There. I like that. It has presence now. It's not just painted. It's got presence. And I'm painting this, like I say, with a thoughtful Rembrandt type of image. Well, a type of paint quality in terms of some impasto. Okay, so now that I have some impasto described, I'm going to go with some of these transitions. I'm going to soften some of the transitions between tones just to make them look a little better. Just soften some of them. Okay. Okay, and then I'm going to go back into some of these shapes here. Hit it with some, and I have just a little bit of off-white kind of tone blended in here. So I don't want everything to look white because now you don't have anything else to shoot for because you can't get whiter than the white you got on your lightest color, which is titanium white in my case here. Because zinc white is not quite as bright and white on the canvas as titanium. I only have really two whites. I have titanium and zinc white. And I think I'm gonna just tamp that down just gray for right now, for that little section. I'm gonna let that dry, then I'm gonna hit it again. But if she's getting impatient, I might just leave it. Let me just see if I can just throw that. Ooh, I like that. I'm just throw that in like that then. That worked too. So now I don't have to hit it again. I was just able to paint that wet on wet. Bam. Okay, not to say that she is getting patient. She has not gotten impatient, by the way. Okay, I see a little bit more glint on this lip from this distance too. I'm just gonna add a little bit more highlight right there. Okay, so now I'm going to go to Senor Snake now. Moving on to that. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the snake. I'm done with this for today, and I'm done with this for the most part. This painting is done. There might be a couple of little licks where I just come in and just touch it with my brush, touch it a little here, there, just little 10, 15 minutes here and there. Maybe not even 10, 15 minutes. Probably 2 or 3 minutes here and there. And it's done. Because you always see something. I don't think any painting is ever truly done. I don't think any painting is truly done. Uh-oh, what'd I do? Just did something. See, so whenever you do something, see, you do too much. See, something told me to stop. I ignored it. And I went too far again. But I might not have gone too far. It's like, okay, what did I actually do? Did I actually do something right or wrong? So this one is a lot of that second guessing yourself also. Because, you know, sometimes little things you can do, just 1 millimeter over here, especially with the eyes, can make it look different. You know, it might have looked more like her one way, then you just went over 1 centimeter too much, 1 millimeter too much, and then you change it. Now it doesn't quite look as like her, you know? Okay, now I don't want to move my head too far away either. But this paint is wet, so now I'm getting a little anxious about this. Semi-wet is even worse because now it's not dry, it's not wet. Okay, now, and the hardest part is to get up off of a section that you're working on and let that paint dry. At this point, that could be the hardest part about painting. Because the stuff is starting, what I painted earlier is starting to become permanent, starting to become dry. And it's harder to manipulate as it gets drier. And the reason it's starting to get dry because I manipulated it so much. I mean, you know, the more you manipulate something, the faster it actually dries. I think some tone in this little knuckle here. I think I'm gonna just go into this and deal with that a little bit. Just gonna pick this up a little bit, these little knuckles. Pick this tone up just a smidge, a bit. Not a lot, just a little bit. Just to get a little bit more highlight in it. Okay, I mean, step away, take a gander, take a look. Also to get my circulation going. Not that my circulation is bad, but it's sitting too long or not moving a lot, you know. Once it gets about this cool, I usually start to try to exercise more so than usual. And because I like to exercise in a cool. When it was hot during the summer, oh heck no, too hot. Well, when I was younger, I could handle that stuff real easy. But you get to a certain age, you get to a certain place, you say, oh man, I don't feel like fooling with that. And you don't. Just your little touches. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the snake body. And what I've done with the snake body is I've done a lot of things to it, you know? And essentially what I have is I've done some tests, as you can see here. Yada. And so, oh, I have some people talking to me. Let me see what they're saying. I love it when you guys... Hey, Fire Ishe, what's up? Geronimo Glock. Geronimo Glock, what's up, my brother? Echo, my brother, Echo. Yes, oh, I know I don't know what it is. I think this is a Facebook issue because there's definitely nothing on my side in terms of my equipment. it's nothing. And I do have a person downloading movies on my Wi-Fi, but my Wi-Fi is so fast I should be able to do that. I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not, but this is my second live today. I deleted the first one because it had these glitches in it, or the echo, or whatever you call that. But I'm also recording this on my cameras that I'll be uploading to YouTube. So just check out my YouTubes where it does not have these issues. The YouTube does not have these kind of issues that Facebook, it's a Facebook issue. There's no problem with YouTube. There's no problem with my cameras. There's no problem with nothing but YouTube. I mean, it's nothing but Facebook. So I don't know what's up with Facebook, man. I'm starting to suspect Facebook, tell you the truth. I'm really, really suspecting them. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use these colors that I have, and I'm trying to get a little bit more of a, I really should have probably bought another color. I should have probably bought, I really should have bought like a teal, you know, like some type of teal or a cyan tone. Because I tend to use a lot of paints with that cyan kind of thing in it. So what I'm going to do is try to get a little of that cyan in my snake tone. So let's see how good I can do that. So what I'm going to do is clean up my brushes real good because I was working with skin tones and now I'm not working with skin tones. And I'm going to throw a little bit more heavier paint in this. So I might just start streaming just to YouTube. The problem with YouTube, I haven't built up my YouTube group well, but I just might just start doing that. Live to YouTube. I like Facebook. I mean, some aspects of Facebook I really, really like, and I've gotten used to the audiences on Facebook. I met people on Facebook that I really like chilling and vibing with. The problem is that, and YouTube is just a little harder to kind of vibe with people. And I guess I'm a vibe with people kind of guy, you know? I mean, that's the kind of person I am. So Facebook I can chill with Facebook better. So I need to put some more tones down. So I do have some cobalt teal. I have some cobalt blue, but I need to put some cerulean blue down. Oop, all I did was put more teal blue down. Just in a different tube. No, I want cerulean blue. So now I got a ton of cobalt. I mean, let me see. There you go. Here's cerulean. Got a ton of cobalt in there. I don't know if I'm going to use it anywhere, but there it is. Oh, now I put a ton of this in, way more than I probably need. So I got a lot of blues to work with. So I don't know if that's going to get in the picture or not. Might as well put some more cobalt blue in, since I got so much of the other tones. I'm going to pop in some more permanent green too, because I have a little small swash on my palette. Since I have big swashes of the other colors, I'm going to put big swashes of this color in. Again, you know, I'm putting this paint on so thick, like this tiara might take almost a week to dry. But it's titanium, so I don't know if it'll take that, but it's thick, man. I put this on thick. As a matter of fact, I'm constantly putting it on even thicker as I even speak. And, you know, like I say, in some places the paint is on here thick. In some places the paint is on here thinner. And why do you want paint thick and thin? Well, it's just going to be a different impression. I shouldn't use this big brush to paint that little thing. But actually I can go ahead and paint the negative area out later. But the quality of that impasto that I got from this bright brush coming in is very nice. And maybe I should just start filming in the early morning hours when nobody else is watching movies on my Wi-Fi. Because my daughter is watching movies on my Wi-Fi. Oh, and yes, for everybody who didn't know, yes, I do have a daughter. Okay, so now I got these tones here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with really, okay, so I'm going to try to clean up my brushes first. So let me just sit this over. Let me sit my palette over, sit this over too. Because my brush is all set up for doing skin tones, her skin tones. And I really do need to kind of flush them out and get them ready to paint. Get them ready to paint the snake tone, which is green. And I want a really clean, bright, not muddy, almost day glow kind of greens I want to try to get. And teals and turquoise and cyans, colors like that. Even though I don't have cyan, I mean you can buy paints all day long. They literally have hundreds of paints. This company has a ton of colors. I don't know if it's hundreds, but it's a lot of colors. And I would love to own every single color just because I want to. You know, not that I need it. It's just I'm an artist, so I love colors. I like paints. You know, just like I love brushes. Oh yeah, by the way, my birthday is in October. And October 12, or is it 13? I forget. So if anybody wants to get me a brush, Raphael brushes, sables for oils, or Escoda brushes, sable for oil. Number 12, number 10, number 8. Number 6, 4, and 2 will work as well. Also rounds. Shoot, any Raphael, any Escoda brush will work. I like them all. And I need them all. So for all those people who want to know what I need or I want for my birthday, there you go. Now, other people want clothes and all this kind of stuff. I don't want that. I want paintbrushes. You know, like I say, 100 years from now, nobody's going to declare which style of clothes had gone out of style that I was wearing. I mean, if you was wearing clothes in the 70s, they ain't in style no more. If you spend $2,000 on a wardrobe in 1970, I'm going to show you a wardrobe that ain't no good no more. It's been in the thrift store a long time ago, and it's probably trashed by now. You know, so no, man, clothes is a terrible gift, especially for an artist. Others say, okay, I like stereos, I like gadgets. Well, I can show you a Macintosh from 1980 something or 1990s, or I can show you a Windows machine 286. MS-DOS. I don't forget about Windows. How many people remember MS-DOS? And see, y'all don't know nothing about that. A lot of people don't know anything about that. MS-DOS, what are you talking about? Just like a lot of people don't know. They say, how have blacks improved since the civil rights movement? Well, if you weren't born, you ain't got no idea. Let's put it that way. You clueless, man. You better ask somebody who was politically involved. And if they ain't politically involved, don't ask, because all they was doing was eat bologna sandwiches. They won't. Who know black folks focusing on politics until about 1990 something? Yeah, 1980s. The average. I'm talking the average. You had to be one of those old elite, like that just recently died. You know, one of them civil rights guys. There ain't too many of them left. I mean, once Thurgood Marshall died, basically, you don't have anybody remember what it was really like that actually knew what was going on. You got a couple of old timers, but they all got political angles. They got angles, you know. They ain't gonna really tell you the truth. But you really gotta have somebody like me. I might be able to tell you the truth. For me, you know, you have to know what was going on so you can know what's real and what's not real. So anyway, we come a long way. I mean, it's like night and day. It's like night and day. And I mean, black people couldn't go through the front doors of most stores. If you was driving up to 95, especially if you was in the southern states, you could not use the bathrooms, or you could be seriously jacked up. You know, they had a colored water fountain. They didn't just have a water fountain, they had colored bathrooms. And if you didn't have a bathroom, most of the time they didn't have a colored bathroom, what you were doing was you was going around back in the woods. Because you won't allow. So what I'm going to do is mix permanent green, emerald green I should say, with teal. And looking at my example here, wherever that is, where did I put it? Where did I put my close-up example? I mean, I got my color swatch example. But where did I put my little small handheld pictorial? Oh, here it is. Over here, it fell behind here. Yeah, reach over, grab it. Okay, there we go. All right, so now I'm going to just add some, I'm just going to enhance the tones. I'm going to enhance the tones. I'm going to put my palette over here now, just so, because I got my picture in my hand. And I really want, I don't want this to be too watery. I do want some medium in this because I want to have that jewel-like, because this color, emerald green mixed with teal blue, looks very, very jewel-like, especially if you have some medium mixed in. So I'm just going into each individual scale here and just trying to, and I'm looking at the value looking at the values of the overall snake's body, and I'm just trying to paint in a really nice tone in each scale. I don't want anything flat and ugly. I want my colors to be popping, zingy. I really want some zingy colors here. And what I'm doing in this portion of the snake's body is more green, I suppose, than any other portion. So I'm really going to focus here first in this section. Of course, I do have underpaint. This underpaint is, I don't know how translucent or non-translucent this paint is that I'm putting in now. But I always paint an underpaint like this, you know, get it kind of the way I want. Just in case something shows through, what's showing through looks very painterly, very modeled. Also, what this does is gives me something to paint inside of. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some Viridian green and I'm going to mix it into this color to get a darker version of this. I'm not going to use any black because I want this to be really high key. So I'm going to darken it simply by mixing in some Viridian and maybe a little bit of cobalt blue. And I'm going to go into the darker portions of where the scales are, where the shadows are. And this brush is a little bit too thick for that. I'm going to use this brush for the actual scales. I'm going to find a lighter brush. And I might have to go back to that liner brush that I have earlier, and I don't see anybody to find it. It's a shorter brush. I don't know where I put it. A lot of times I would paint this with my small filber, but that might be more tedious to paint with than a liner brush. But since I can't find my liner brush, which is weird, okay, so I just didn't put a brush back in my brush caddy. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my Escoda. And this is a number, I think this is a number 4. I really want my Escoda number 2. And the Escoda number 2 don't look like it has as fine of a point on it as number 4, actually. So I'm going to get that. I'm going to pick up a little bit of this tone. And I'm going to go into this darker, almost black section of the scale. Now, I don't want this color, because since I have black already there, I don't necessarily need this color to be covering the black. I just want it to kind of shimmer and add some green in the black of the black, I should say. I don't want this dull kind of black scales just to make it look like a shadow. I wanted it to look more, give it a more translucent look. You know, I mean, right now the snake looks very non-translucent. It looks, I want it to kind of look almost like neon, you know. Kind of like, you know, that reptile, those colors that you find in that reptile scale, you know. I'm trying to get that. So I've already painted this dark color, and I'm not painting over it. What I'm doing is I'm going along with it, but I'm really just trying to lean the dark color towards like a green. But at the same time, what I'm doing is I'm still exposing and I'm not hitting all of the dark to blacks. I'm just getting maybe like a side of it here, a little portion of it there. You know, just glints of color. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for glints of color. Because what I don't want the scales to just to look black in the dark areas. I want them to look like it crevice in. Of course, the light is caressing it, so it's not getting light there. It's a shadow. It's dark in there, which is I use black to kind of like demark where the scales are, but the color that's on top of the dark, the color that it is still green. It's not black. Now, I don't want to whisk the color down too much and make it too translucent, but I don't want it too opaque either to cover. I just want it just so. Especially when I get into these darker areas, what I'm doing is bringing in more pigment in the darker areas. Now, I need to paint very fast before this galcate or alkyd type of medium. It's 50% alkyd, 50% Gamsol. It will start to stiffen after about an hour or so. So you definitely, I want to paint this, but I don't want it to take an hour because I don't want it to start getting set up and syrupy and very difficult to push around on the canvas. I want the paint still to be very movable, but of course the more this effect gives it just a little bit of a day glow, a simmer, you know, one color, translucent, sitting on top of another color. It's kind of echoing that same shape and that same form. Just to add another, again, I'm not necessarily trying to paint photorealistically, but realistically. But I'm trying to paint in such a way that's interesting. It still looks like the snake. It still looks cool. You know, I mean, it registers as a realistically painted painting. But I'm doing it in an unconventional way. You know? Now I'm going to pick up a little bit of that cerulean and bring it in there. Cerulean blue. Bring it into the viridian that's mixed with the cobalt teal, which is also mixed with a little bit of permanent green. And I'm gonna hit the shadows of some of these lighter areas up top with that. Because a lot of this, it was wet on wet. I did not delineate the different scales as nicely as I could have, I guess. Or if I did, what I'm doing at this point, the whole purpose is refinement, refinement, refinement. That's what it is now. This is all about, at this point in the painting, it's all about refinements. Now, am I having a lot of fun with this painting? Yes. Could I have been finished this painting, just painted it very conventionally and done? Yes. But I'm having so much fun with this particular painting that I've been kind of prolonging it. You know, I'm prolonging the painting a little bit. I like the elements in it. I like the subject matter. I like the young lady. She's cool. As cool as I don't know what. And I just want to do something really, really nice. I want it to be nice for her. She is one of my first Facebook clients, which is awesome. Okay, and I'm definitely liking what's going on now with this snake body. I'm liking it a lot. And I'm painting basically wet on top of dry, which I like to do a lot. I like to paint in layers. I like to paint wet on wet, but I also like to paint just as much as wet on wet. I like to paint dry on dry. I mean, wet on dry. Now, on the other side of this tree, the way these scales are going in shadow, I'm not going to do a whole lot with that. I might just hit a few accents of cerulean blue, viridian green in it, just to add a little Yeah, I like this little Dorigan green I'm hitting in here, so I'm gonna continue that. So every time I say I'm not gonna do something, then I do something, then I tend to wind up liking it. Then I just totally undo what I said I won't gonna do. Because a lot of times when you're painting, you know, I don't even go into anything too much with any preset, too many preset ideas, because you should be open. You know, when you're creating, you don't really know what's gonna work, what's not gonna work, what's gonna look good, what's not gonna look good. You know, when you go in there thinking that I'm gonna paint this way, this is how step one, step two, you don't do anything interesting. You don't do anything that's really gonna be, you know, shock and all, like, oh my gosh, you know, you're not gonna do that. You're gonna be doing some stuff that's kind of I've seen that before. Oh, anybody can do that kind of stuff. What you want to do is do something that, and this is a glaze. I mean, this is a transparent glaze right here, whereas you can kind of see. You can see tones underneath other tones. You can see paint underneath other paint. I'm gonna get a little sap green for some of these places. I need to touch it up. I'm using that to touch up. Okay, that's good. Okay, now I'm gonna go back to where that's a little nice. I'm gonna clean my brush out. This brush is painting very nice, this particular effect. And what I'm gonna do is just find, well, I just saw another place that I missed. There, get that. There we go. That's pretty good. All right, so now I'm going to look at that tone that I was doing earlier, which is nice. I'm gonna go back to it, and it's a day glow color. I have teal, I have permanent green, emerald green, I should say, teal blue, and mostly just those two colors. And that's creating a nice day glow kind of turquoisey, greeny, you know, kind of floral, kind of snake, like something in the jungle kind of color. And I'm introducing this tone into this snake at this point. And hopefully I'm going to just change just the way he comes across. I'm going to change his overall tonality. He looks very tactile and snake, you know. But I want him to look kind of like somewhat alien, you know, that snake scale look. You know, it has sort of almost like the alien texture, you know, just to add just another quality to his scale, you know, just. I'm getting here with a little bit of this color, just put a little reflections here and there, little glints of light in some of the other scales, just to have a little hint of some of these scales down here. I do want this paint, since this is top paint, I do want it to be nice. I want it to be clean. I don't want it to be too dapped in looking. I want it to be painted in with a painted in look. Okay. All right, that's looking pretty good. All right, and so I'm gonna go back again. We'll find some light spots that kind of got added where it shouldn't have been added. I'm just gonna darken some of that down some. Okay. Yeah, that's nice. I'm liking that more and more and more. Okay, I do have, let me go back to this other darker color again because of some black areas that I need to hit. And you know, a lot of times people view painting as something you paint. A painting is actually something that you build. Build a painting. You don't paint a painting. I think of it as building. You know, it's one layer of paint on top of another layer. So it's built. You know, you build it up. You know, you start out with a piece of canvas and you put the gesso on. That's why I like to build my own. I like to build my own canvases because I like to apply my own surface. That's the foundation. That's very important. And if you start your painting out with a very good foundation, you're going to have, you're going to have something that's really nice. So, you know, I have all ground here, which is nice. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is go back into this teal color. And I'm just kind of, I'm going to stand up a little bit so I can get nice and close and paint these little edge scales in. And what I want to do is I'm getting real close to this. I'm getting real close to this so that I can see really clear. I don't want to put down any, I'm doing some really wrist painting now. I'm painting with my wrist, not with my arm, which means I'm painting real tight and detailed with a very small brush. And sometimes that's necessary. A lot of times people don't like that because they feel like, oh, you're not expressing. I've already done the expression part. This is the part where I just want to get the quality of the paint on the surface nice. When I say quality, I'm just trying to paint some solid shapes. And I don't want just stray hairs of brush flinging out. Actually, I do have some texture in here. So I have texture in here too. And I'm paying attention to the texture. I'm paying attention to the various, I have impasto, you know, that's what texture is. And it's in here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is while I'm looking at this impasto, I'm going to some of these highlight areas with that in mind. And I'm going to start getting into some of these textures. Now, sometimes I painted these textures rather on the, I'm not going to say gestural side, but I'm going to paint some of these textures a little bit less gesturally than I did in previous sessions. And the whole idea is And the whole idea is just to get the painting tighter. Get this bad boy tight, man. Get it tight. Like I say, this is gonna get ready to leave my studio soon. So once it leaves my studio, I'm not in charge of it anymore. Somebody else is. It's their painting. It's not my painting. And I have to have done everything that I need to do while I got it. Then anything else after that, I just have to grit and bear it. I mean, because like I said, almost every painting, I could paint one paint forever. I mean, that's what that's what Leonardo da Vinci did. Everybody see the Mona Lisa and think he just painted it and just presented it. No, he didn't. Don't nobody even know who it was. So it was some fictitious person in his head, or somebody he kept a very close secret. Some people say it was his mom. Some people say it was secret lover, whatever. The reality is, he took 30 years to paint that. He just painted a little bit at a time. He just kept touching it up and touching it up and touching it up. He was never finished that painting. He was never ever finished it. And I can imagine as his skill improved as an artist, he would paint over and over. And if you look at that picture in the Louvre, or wherever it's housed, I believe it's the Louvre, it's cracked up, it doesn't have the glare and the gloss that you're used to seeing in certain old masters painting, because a lot of that glare and gloss came in during the Baroque period, right after the Renaissance period, where the technology of painters had permanently evolved. I mean, it was common knowledge to do certain things, And a lot of times the old masters, they was working, when I said that Leonardo, they were working under candlelight inside, maybe by a window, maybe not, And it was, the light's constantly changing as the sun's moving through the sky. And there was no consistent light, so a lot of times they're using earth tones a lot in their pigments. So the pigments look really monotone, It looks very monotone a lot. Okay, so and you can see that reflected to some level in the Mona Lisa. You can see it. So what is it about the Mona Lisa that's so magical? And I think what it is that you're seeing the mind reflection of an artist recorded in a painting, of a genius artist recorded in a painting over 30 years of his progress. You're seeing that. And so when you look at when you look in person at the Mona Lisa, you see that in the paint. It's not so much the picture, it's just some girl from some old century civilization smiling at you. I mean, you look at it in a reproduction, that's what it doesn't look that impressive. I mean, people do stuff today that looks much more interesting. So what makes the Mona Lisa so timeless, what makes the Mona Lisa so interesting, is that she is the thought process of Michelangelo as he's developing as an artist. So you're looking at what his brain wanted to see. That's what you're looking at. You're looking at what this man's brain wanted to see. You're not necessarily looking at an image of a photographic process. You're not looking at the image of of something that has to even look realistic. Because the Mona Lisa does not look realistic. You're looking at his vision, his literally Michelangelo's way of seeing. That's what you're looking at. You're looking at his way of seeing things. And because he had artist eyes, artists don't have eyes, they have a brain. But let's call it artist eyes because a lot of people refer to it that way. You're looking at it the way his brain sees the world. Sees a person, a woman. And that's the specialness. That's what makes it nice. That's what makes Leonardo's picture so nice. And every time he saw a little imperfection, I'm sure that thing dried, because back then the oil paints, I'm sure it took a long time to dry. I mean, they were using linseed oil. And maybe some other oils too. He might have his own secret oils, who knows? But you're talking about something that might have taken a week to dry, 2-3 days to dry at the most, at the least amount of time. And it would just sit on an easel somewhere close to him. And then here and there and here and there, he would go in and he would basically do a touch up on the thing. He would just touch it. Just like I'm doing now, he would just add touches. And he just kept doing this to this painting. And every time he would record his creative process, something he learned about how to paint, something he felt about that particular image he was working on, that's what he was recording. That's basically what he was recording there. So I tell people, when you have an artist painting, you're not looking, don't intend to look at the painting like it should be a photograph. Because most of the time, if it's a sophisticated artist especially, that person is not trying to give you a rendition of a photograph, because artists already know that a camera can do it about 3 clicks. Click. What a photographic artist, what a photorealistic artist can do in a few months. Because if you're going to paint hyper photorealistic, that's how much time it takes, a few months. And you're just, depending on how big the painting is, And you're going to be really, you can do it a little quicker if it's not that big of a painting. But if you have a really, really, really huge painting with a lot of stuff in it, man, you're going to be a couple of months, I mean, you're not a laser printer or something like that, an inkjet or G-clay printer. You're not that. You're a person. Unless you photoshopping it and cheating, tricking. There's a lot of people using modern devices, and they really faking the funk, man. There's a lot of people faking the funk. I'm an artist. I can tell when you're faking the funk. And the average person can't, but I can. And you see me painting right here. You see me doing it. So it's clear I'm not faking the funk. As a matter of fact, I paint this thing 5 different ways just to show you that this is painted, man. This ain't no projectionist. This ain't no using software. This ain't but right now with this scale, I'm kind of almost in my own mind's eye with it. I'm just getting down with the get down, man. This is called getting down with the get down right now. That's what this is called. Get down with the get down. Okay, so I don't want to do too much. It's too different. So I'm going to get off of this. I'm going to go back to my teal. Let's start adding a little yellow into this green in some highlight areas. And really, I don't see that there at all. I just want to kind of have some vehemence. I want to have some you know, some high key image in there, some pop in there. Okay, I'm gonna go back to some white for some of these scale highlights. And just try to get more 3D-esque. Get some more 3D-esque up in here on this bad boy here. And I'm mixing white with a little bit of that green, that teal, and that emerald green mix that I mixed earlier. Just add a little white. Oops, don't want any stray brush strokes. And just trying to make some of these scales more 3D-esque. Okay, that's good. Sometimes they need to be just a little bigger. Sometimes they don't. You know, sometimes you feel like a nut and sometimes you don't. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mix a little emerald green with a little viridian green with a little. No, I'm not gonna mix anything. I'm gonna clean my brush because I don't like that color. I'm gonna go into some viridian green with just a little bit of emerald green. Emerald green, just a little bit of emerald green. And some of these areas, I'm just gonna kind of tap it down some. It's just a little too high key in some of these areas. Just a little bit. And then some places I just got it's too light. I mean, from a distance, I like the way it pops. It makes it look more poppy in 3D. But close up, it looks kind of wimpy. So I'm gonna clean, well, I might go to a different brush. I was cleaning this brush, but I like the tone that's on there, so I'm gonna get a different brush. I think I got a brush with this tone already, something similar already on. I'm gonna mix a little bit of Dioxazine purple with white. And then I'm gonna go into some of the underbelly of this paint, of this snake here. And just hit some of these tones, these lighter tones that I, more or less on the subsequent earlier painting session, I kind of more gesturally painted it in. But now I'm kind of going in and I'm reinforcing some of that painting just by adding a little bit more medium, mixing the same color. I'm gonna get a little bit of alizarin in there too. It's the same color. It's just that I want to make that less wispy. Now, when I do add the oil layer over top of this, and I'm gonna put like a satin finish. Put a satin finish on it. It's gonna be very nice. But however, I haven't added that oil layer, and the oil layer looks a lot better when you have a nice set of paint under it already. And now I have to just rely on just the oil to get that intense richness of color. So what I'm doing is reinforcing this bit of painting just to make sure that color is well painted and intense. Now some of it I do want to leave this loose, because when you leave a painting loose, the eye does not focus. And so that's why I don't intend to necessarily always make a photorealistic painting, because I do want to have a central focal point with this painting. And with this particular painting, my central focal point obviously is right here. It's not just their eyes, it's right here. This area right here. Now, it's not on the golden mean, because if you look at the golden mean, what is on the golden mean? Bam! The snake. It's on the golden mean. There he is right there. Right there. He's on the golden mean. However, what else is on the golden mean? This eye on her is on the golden mean. And then what else is on the golden mean? Her brooch. And then there's sub-golden means within inside of this. So, but this is how I didn't want it to be too far to the left because it's a portrait. It had to be somewhat centered. So I'm working the best I can with the golden mean. You can't always follow something religiously. Sometimes you just got to make it work. You just got to make it work, man. Oh, just hit that with a stray brush stroke when I was coming down from something. The good thing about this is dry, so I can just wipe it off. And just move on. Okay, so what I'm going to do is get a slightly bigger brush. I'm going to pick up a little bit of Viridian green. I'm just going to have something to hit this little underbelly just to soften it up. I don't want it to be too harsh down there, but at the same time, I got to get a darker tone in there. I'm going to get some ultramarine blue. Because it's kind of mixing and it's lighting it up too light. So there we go. All right, so now the underbelly of this guy here is a little bit too dark right now, right around this. So I'm going to hit some lighter tones in here as well, some lighter scales. There we go. Now he looks more coily. He looks more, yeah, I like that. Just bring out his face just a little smidge more. Just accentuating my whites in here on him. But I don't really want the snake to be the actual central focal point because this is a portrait. So clearly the actual central focal point is her eyes. And it's very easy for this snake to just take over. First of all, it's a snake. And so a snake's going to grab attention anyway because in nature, as humans, we're used to seeing snakes, especially poisoning. We don't know if it's poisonous or not, so we know that Our ancestors died when they came in contact with a poisonous one and got stung. So we paid it to the ones that survived. Said, okay, when that comes, be on alert because if he bites you, you might die. So the image of a snake is grafted in our brain from the caveman days when we was in Africa and there was snakes running around, venomous snakes, jacking folks up. So the snake is a powerful image in our psyche. When I talk about psyche, I'm not talking about your learned psyche. I'm talking about the ones that you inherited from the ancestors who survived because uncle or cousin or somebody got bit and they didn't make it. Now, on this snake eyes, I don't want to paint any real detail into the snake's eyes because if I do, your eye is going to go to the eye of whatever I paint. So I'm just going to just keep that dark and obscured because a snake is made for camouflage anyway. His design, half of the snake's defense is not how, I see these people making a snake fight something else. It's really not fair. Because the way the snake evolved and the way he became awesome is he just stayed away. He was stealth. He was there, but he wasn't there. So 50% of the snake's defenses is not being there in the first place to fight anything. And then even when he catches his prey, the snake is a type of animal that slowly sneaks up on something. It's not like a lion. I mean, not even a lion. A lion sneak up on you too. It's not like a human, or it's not like you're in a boxing match and your opponent's on the other side of the corner. I mean, a lot of animals just don't work that way. The way the animal works is it sneaks up on you. And before you know it, it's done its trick. It's used its power. In the case of a venomous snake, its venomous bite to neutralize its prey and go in and, get the meal, basically, because at the end of the day, everything's hungry. Including people. I mean, when you get up, you make your bacon and eggs or whatever. I mean, if you're vegan, you're getting your salad, your bean pie. And you're gonna chomp down on some serious grub, man. You're gonna have to, or else you're gonna die. And animals got to chomp down on grub too. So just because they're hunting and killing don't mean that they're a vicious thing. It don't mean that they're, it's not like this is Mike Tyson over here and this is Muhammad Ali, whatever, And these people humans is the only thing that goes after each other and beat the brains out on each other. I mean, humans are almost like a perversion of nature if you think about it. We got to the point where we're so removed from nature, we're beating each other down just for sport. We call it sports. We call it a sport. We just go in and beat each other's brain out, and whoever does it the best becomes famous. The person that does it the best becomes famous. You say, oh man, you see the way he hit that person? That's called a tackle. You tackled something. Oh man, he hit that, man. So, I mean, I like sports that involve, there's some sports that you're not trying to break something up. Those are higher level sports. You're just hitting a baseball. And then it's kind of violent against the ball. But at least you're not beating somebody up. You do have to tag them out, in baseball. Basketball, you got to hit a net, and sometimes you can foul somebody, but that's bad if you foul somebody. So basketball is a higher evolved sport. But, you know, football, boxing, those are jacked up sports right there. And it usually involves a Neanderthal type of individual. It's a little bit more Cro-Magnon man than Homo sapien. I mean, you're like some kind of crossbreed between a Homo sapien and a Neanderthal. And you're a football player. That's a perfect recipe for a winning football player. Slight Homo sapien and Homo erectus mixed with Neanderthal equals to certain sports players. I mean, I don't want to try to be, you know, disrespectful to anybody that's in the sports. But like I said, I think basketball is okay. I think baseball is okay, so I'm not talking about your sport. But you know the sports is all jacked up. I mean, we know, because it's the sports that the women don't like. Or they might pretend to like it because their husband like it. So they'll get into it because some dude brainwashed her into it. But for the most part, the women know what's up with them sports, man. They're going to watch a movie, something with some substance to it. Dude want to see some dudes caving each other's brain in. So you know that the woman evolved first because she's higher evolved. She don't want to see violence as much. Well, then again, maybe she was in the cave nurturing the babies while you was out there breaking the head of a dinosaur open. You know, don't know. You know, that's a call that we got to make. You know. So that's kind of how it went, you know. The dinosaur, the Homo erectus, and the Neanderthal doing that thing together. And then some of them blended with Homo sapiens and produced some of the people we see walking around now voting for Donald Trump. Oops, I hope you're not one of those people. Sorry about that. I didn't mean that. I'm just cracking a joke. Sorta. Okay, so I'll back up off of that, see if I improved at all on anything. And sometimes you think you're improving something, and you might not be improving it like you think you are. You know? You just think you're improving something. I'm going to use this big brush here and just kind of tap some of these highlights down. Soften them up. Add a little bit of a specular glow, I should say. With a brush that's too big, you can do that somewhat. Now that one might be a little smidge too big, so I'm going to go back a little bit. Clean off this one. It's still a little bit too big. Clean it off. And just kind of hit some of these little glints of light here. I should say light color, which I'm creating the illusion of glints of light with. Because this is not just a painting, a portrait. This is a work of art. This is a museum piece right here. that's exactly how I'm painting. Just that way. Okay. Yeah. I almost was gonna say. There we go. Okay, now I think I got a nice, rich looking snake there. Now I could work on the underbelly of this snake, but I like the gestural way I painted that so much. Even though it's not painted anywhere near realistically, the contrast of that style painting, as opposed to the more controlled, manipulated way I painted this part of the painting, is a great contrast in the painting. Great contrast. So I like that. Adam Nyanwawa is watching. LeJune Davison, Geronimo Glock. How you guys doing? Appreciate y'all coming by. I realize that something is up with my soundtrack. Okay, so now I got the snake body refined to the level I want. Now, what I'm doing now, this is an area that I painted like 3 or 4 or 5 days ago. And I push it in just a little bit with my finger. If it matches at all, if I can push it with my fingernail, that means it's still too wet to oil out. And I do that with the sides and the back because it's not the front side. Now, what I have left to do is this bracelet right in here. Let me move my chair out the way. Oops, let me see. This big old chair in the way. So I still have this bracelet. I just painted over this actually today. Or yesterday, I think, or early this morning, I forget. And so what I want to do with this is I'm just going to paint this over as a diamond bracelet. I got another example of a diamond bracelet. So what I'm going to do is touch up these sunflowers a little bit. I think that's the last couple of those touches I'm going to do. And then I'm going to touch up some of this lace a smidge too. And then that's going to be nice. I mean, that's going to be really my finishing touches. Then the rest of this stuff, I'm going to start on my Lincoln Visits Richmond painting. I'm going to start on my Richmond Visits Lincoln painting. And, but before that, I'm going to get my website going, which will be stephenforeman.com if I can get it. So that's my next project, is to get my website going. Full bloom. Okay, now I do like the sunflower. I have it painted nicely, but I could have it painted better. So I'm going to go in here. Again, I painted it very gesturally. I'm going to go, I want another layer here because I like nice, rich paint. And I'm really just getting almost straight cadmium yellow. Now the fact that it is yellow and it's sitting, I painted it sitting on top of this green, it's going to be slightly translucent. And of course what I don't want it to be is so translucent. And like I say, this is a painting. So half of the fun of a painting, it does have texture, or it can have texture. And of course, if a painting can have texture, you know what that means? It means it should have texture. Because it just adds one more bit of character, visual excitement to it. And a painting should be visually exciting. It really should be. A painting should not be visually boring. Or if you can make it more exciting, why not make it more exciting? Now, I haven't been working on this steady. I've been working on it a long time, about basically 4 hours a day. And then sometimes only 2 hours a day, because a lot of times, and you guys see me online every time I've been painting. A lot of times I'm just really waiting for the paint to dry, which I might start doing these commission pieces. I might start doing them in acrylic in the future, just so I can paint them faster. Because acrylic does dry faster, which means I can make them faster. And so if the future is going to be a lot of consignment videos like this, I think I'm going to go with golden paint acrylics because I've been reading up on it. I've been painting oil so long that I just been painting oil. I haven't painted acrylic in a long time. I can paint acrylic, but I just like oil so much that I tend to not be painting oil as much. And so I used to use Winsor Newton and Liquitex and Grumbacher back in the day in terms of acrylic paint. And I don't even really know what versions I was using. I don't know if I was using the student version or what, you know. I think I was using professional versions, I believe. Been so long ago, don't know. But just gonna touch up my sunflowers just a little smidge. And go for that. Just adding some little bursts of color in these dudes. And I'm painting with heavy impasto on this, because this is gestural. This is not the main topic. Even in the main topic, which is her, I use heavy impasto, especially on her body and other parts. I even use some heavy impasto inside of her face a little bit, but in certain areas of the face, I kind of lighten up with the impasto. Just a little bit. These are just the finishing touches. These little bits of color, little bits of interest to make the painting more nice. Just to make the painting more nice, you know. Put some quality in there. Paint this with a lot of texture because it's in a section. I can put a lot of brush strokes and then texture in there. And with intense color, because this is a symbol that's in a painting. And I want the symbolism to be intense. And nice. But of course I do. Of course, I'm putting this on nice and heavy, so I don't know how long this is going to take to dry. Almost put no medium in this. In fact, I'm not putting any medium in. I'm just painting it straight out of the tube onto the canvas. And I did include a little bit just to make it not like a daisy, so it won't be get mistake for a daisy. I'm just adding some more orange just to make sure that it is a sunflower. And cannot get confused with any other thing. Okay. So there, sunflowers look nice and rich. Snake looks richer. I like the way it looks. I transform it every time. I've done some transformative things into the eye and eyebrows and some of the skin tones, but I'm going to let this set up because I'm going to paint into this anymore. It's going to be, I want that dry. I don't want to do too much to it. So at this point, I'm all around. I've been in the snake area. I've been in the forehead, eyes, and the crown. I was going to work on the hair, but it's so close to the crown and other areas, especially the face, I don't want to drag into that and put fingerprints in there. And that's fairly easy to do. So I'm going to work on the hair. And it's almost not even necessary for me to put hair texture in it. But I'm going to work on that on another session after this is dry. So I'm not really going to deal too much with the hair. But I am going to kind of work with some of these transitions here around this hair. And I'm just going to get right around the forehead where the hairline is. I'm just going to try to get a dark tone and just make sure there's some transition into that dark. Just a little transition into that. Now, the transition looks so nice that I just added. This tone looks a little pale compared, so I'm gonna go. So I might not even work on that tomorrow because I want to just add another layer to this black. Because I don't want the rest of it to be rich and the black to be dull. So I'm going to add a little bit of medium just to kind of gloss this up a smidge. Not too glossy. Just a little bit of medium. Quite a bit of pigment though. And I want a dapple kind of effect here. Don't want a brushy left to right kind of effect anymore. But I did add a little gloss just to give it some shimmy. With that, when I add the galc, it does kind of level things off. It gives it less impasto just by the nature of adding it, because that's what it does. It helps the painting kind of be less plastic, so to speak, and less paste-like, and more flowing and lay down more and be flat. However, if you don't want brush strokes in the paint, you want to dab it like this. So what I'm doing is I'm adding a little bit more so it doesn't look so flat. I mean, I could do this with and I oil it out, but I'd much rather paint it in. That way I can control the look. Because the oil out is going to be a satin finish anyway. It's just going to really, it's just design of that just to make everything look uniform. All the different treatments of paint that I have, all the different ways that I paint it so that they look uniform. Okay, so now what that does is by having some areas that had heavier impasto and some areas was more matte and some areas was less matte, it kind of added to the illusion of hair, you know, African American hair. However, I'm going to paint that, so I've already made a determination. Now, right around here where the temple meets the hair, I want to do some more of this dapping. But I really don't like to do too much of the dapping with a very, very liquidy color. I like to really do it with a very chalky color. But in this case, I'm going to use this color. And what I'm going to do is just dap a little bit more gently and less hard so I don't get such a hard dap kind of brush stroke on here. I don't know if you could know what that means. And I'm just trying to now dap this with just the end hairs on this to get more fine brush movements. There you go. So there we go. Now I don't even know if I have audio anymore because this Facebook audio has been doing some crazy stuff. Okay, so, and I mix a little bit of ultramarine blue in that too, just so I can see the difference from where the brown from the skin transitions into the brown of the hairline. And I can tap that a little later better with a smaller brush, or I can go in there and hit it with this smaller brush now. Just get it right now. So I'm almost to the finish point. There's no need of saying I'm going to be later when there might not be too many laters. Because this bad boy is getting there. It's getting there. Okay, so now this painting is getting toward the completed level. I need to sign it, and I'm going to probably sign it right down there. And I need to work on this bracelet. And then just go around just looking for any places where I need to, got a stray brush mark that I might have missed or something like that. Or something that I could blend just a little smidge better. But in other words, basically, essentially, in terms of my consideration of my painting, like now I'm just going in with a little glaze and just hitting a little area that I did later. And what I'm going to do with this glaze is just, with a tissue, I'm going to just wipe it back up. This is just going to add just a little bit more glow. I think I'm going to do a little bit of orange in this glaze too. I'm just add some medium to this, just a little glow of orange. Cadmium orange is what this is. I think I'm going to carry some of this down just to bring a little bit more warmth. Then I'm going to just use my tissue technique. Yes, a tissue is a brush too. It's a way you can make tones on a canvas also. Now I can use a cloth with this, or I can use my finger. But what this does is just breathes a little bit more of a different glow. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to use my finger technique right there just to show you that you can use, the whole idea is just to get a slightly different tone interacting with this. And now, actually with this, I'm going to just get a little bit of cadmium red and just and a little bit of just pure Gamblin orange. I'm not going to put any medium in it at all much because I kind of like it without the medium. I kind of like it without, and this is on dry, by the way. This is dry right here. So this is wet on dry. I'm just dropping in a glaze, wet on dry. So I just pop that tone in. And I'm taking a nice soft round number 12. This could easily be a mop brush. And then I'm just kind of dry brushing it, sort of. This tone into the existing tone. And this is just creating a little bit of a light glow into some of these darker tones I have here. And it's so thin, you're seeing the undertone underneath. It's not like you're going to not see this undertone. It's not like I'm covering anything. I'm just bringing in a little warmth into this bad boy. I'm going to get back and I'm going to just check it out. And I do like the warmth. I do like it. It does add an extra element. What I'm going to do is just stand back a little bit so I can see. I'll put a little cadmium red right there. The cadmium red. I'm going to buff that sort of in. That's nice. And then I'm going to wipe it back because I don't want so much. I do want it still dark there. Yeah. And it just got this, puts the glow in her skin. Puts a little bit of a glow in there. So it adds into that brown, just bring a little something in there, a little attitude or something in there that wasn't there before. And that's what I like with my finishing touches. So I'll be doing that possibly off camera, but I'm not going to do it a long time because I want to get this girl's painting before October. Sometime around the first, and my birthday is October 12th, so I want her to have this painting. I know my audio is sketchy. I don't know why that's happening. It's not my equipment. It's something with Facebook. I don't know what it is. But sometimes it happens, sometimes it don't. So next time I'm gonna use my laptop instead of this iPad. Maybe I dropped the iPad. I don't know. I don't know why it's doing this. But at first, when I first started out, it was not doing this. And then all of a sudden, it just started going in and out as I was tagging certain people. And then I just got tired of tagging people, so I didn't tag so many. Because I've done it before. The first time I did it, it started doing the same thing. So I quit out of that one. And I tagged a bunch of people on that one. I got tired from tagging on the last one. So I don't know. You know. But I noticed when I went to do a little search on that, a lot of other people have the same kind of audio issues. I don't think it's everybody. You know, sometimes I can be a little bit politically outspoken on my personal accounts. And maybe Facebook don't like that. I noticed you have something to say sometimes about certain people, like Donald Trump. It seems like you start getting Facebook issues all of a sudden. I mean, I'm not saying that Facebook is an app that supports Donald Trump or certain things, but it does seem like people with certain views seem to get a little bit hit harder by Facebook than people who don't. Or people who have other views, let's put it that way. I'm not going to even say they don't. Everybody has a view on something. Okay, now what I'm doing is when I was working on some of the skin tone, I kind of went into some of these tones, this painting that I've already done on her lace. So what I'm doing is I'm going back in and I'm touching up some of this lace. I really don't want to get too close to this bracelet because I'm going to paint that tomorrow or sometime in the near future. But I do want to kind of tighten up some of this lace right here because I'm kind of done with this. The only thing I want to do at this level, I don't want to, what I consider painting, painting is when I'm actually painting something that don't exist, so it's not quite my final way I want it to go. That's painting. Then when I got things finally the way I wanted to go, that is called finishing touches. That's called touching the painting. That's just touching up the painting. And that's just refining the painting. That's just making the painting look better. I mean, making that particular element of what I was painting look better. You know. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm going back into this black of this lace. I'm just trying to make it look better because I've already worked on the skin tone inside of the lace to make it look better. Yeah, I'm recording this to YouTube as well. I'm going to edit it probably tomorrow and upload it to YouTube. And I'm going to upload other videos that I recorded also painting this particular painting. You know, in order of which I shot them, in order of which I actually painted. And the audio on YouTube would be fine. So I recommend all my Facebook people, you know, set up your notifications in YouTube so you get my YouTube. Then when I put the edited version with the good audio in there, not the Facebook audio, you can actually hear it nicely. So I should hope that that works fine. Because and maybe I'll just start going into my Facebook I guess professional page or corporate page or whatever you call that. Maybe that's what Facebook wants me to do. And maybe I'm just resisting, so they're trying to steer me in that direction. I don't know. But maybe it's somebody on my list that I tag that puts the dang on Facebook police on me and jacks up my audio. I don't know. I don't know why anybody would want to sabotage my audio, but maybe don't nobody want to sabotage my audio. Maybe it's just, I don't know. I got to figure it out. Say I might just go to my Facebook page. It's just I don't know if I have as many fans going to that. I think Facebook might put it out more, you know, put your videos to hit more people. I mean, they do have algorithms to get more people. I think they just got me on a very low quality video stream. Very, very low quality audio in the stream. That's what it seems like to me. Even though I have a very, very fast Wi-Fi here. So I just don't understand why. Because my Wi-Fi is pretty good. And like I say, this is just really just, the painting is painting. This is finishing touches right now. The painting is painted past tense. And these are earrings here. A lot of times people might think this is an extra finger. But actually it's in the painting. I mean, it's in the picture she gave me. It's actually fingers. I mean, it's actually earrings. Gold earrings. They kind of don't make sense for the picture because they're just sitting there right next to the ear. And it's like different kinds of, it's a really different kind of earring that's a little bit more, I guess, refined or unusual. So most people don't register this as an earring because they're not even used to seeing earrings that look like this. You know, because I think her taste is very, very different. And, you know, I guess more eclectic tastes. Okay, and I think I need just a little bit more land mask here. This looks too pointed going into her head. So I'm going to just get a nice brush. This one already has some green on it. I'm just going to change this here so it's more blunt. It's not so pointed, this land mass here. Just kind of recontour this little cliff by which the waterfall is falling, just so it looks, doesn't look like it's just pointing into her head. Okay, and I'm gonna back up off of that and see what that did. Okay, so yeah, that looks a little bit better. And I don't know if I want it so dark either. So I think I want it even fatter, but I don't want it so dark. So I'm going to use some lighter greens. As a matter of fact, at the bottom, I think I'm going to put a little yellow in this green. Just to make it look like a different kind of foliage right there. Very close to her ear. But I'm going to just build this out. Just to break this up into the horizon, I'm going to just let this get a little bit more white as it goes into the horizon. Like there's this succession of like some woodlands or something there. And then build a little bit more green down here too. I don't want to have too much green to take away from the snake though. I I really don't want that much, and I think that's why I was a little easier on the green. And then I think I'm going to get some teal in here. Because not all green is green. Sometimes there's other colors in there that makes it look like green. Okay, and I'm using a lot of these colors straight at this point. Thick, rich. And this teal is enough different from the darker of the edge of the snake's face. Kind of give me that difference that I'm looking for. Just a subtle difference. Yeah, that's better. I think I want to still some more lighter foliage coming down. So I'm going to go back into my cadmium yellow. I'm going to build that down just another 2 or 3 millimeters. So that doesn't look so pointed coming into her. And I think I'm going to put a little ridge of darker tone down just to give it some edge. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so nice. All right, so now that I am, most of the finishing touches that I'm going to do today is kind of done, sort of. And I'm going to look at it because I have to look at my paintings a lot before I get my final. Let me get this out of the way. I hope this won't on anyway the whole time on my YouTube camera. And so I have a tendency to do is back out, and when I back, my space is a little tight in this little area because I got the thing so close to my cameras that it's harder for me to see everything, but yeah, I'm liking that. Now there is some things I'm seeing. Again, these are little finishing touches. I can wait till tomorrow, but every time I wait, but I still have to paint that bracelet, so little thin paint on that bracelet because I know that bracelet is going to be fairly thick paint. It's going to take at least 24 hours to 48 hours to dry. So it is what it is. Okay, now what I might try, and I might have, this is dry, so I'll be able to wipe it up. You know, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. You know, that song comes to mind. It's one of my favorite songs, by the way. I mean, little simple songs are some of my favorite songs. Not anything like, you know, like a major artist song. Just an old school song. Like somebody, you know, like when you go to Disneyland, when you hear them sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow. That's the stuff I like, man.